Hello and welcome to the Magical Midlife Podcast, where you get a refreshing, uplifting and optimistic perspective on life in your 40s and 50s. I'm your host, Lindsay de Swart, and I'm delighted that you've joined us here today, so let's jump right in. Good morning. Welcome to the Magical Midlife. How are you this morning? So today I'm delighted because I have got another English guest, actually. I do love connecting with my English guests. There is definitely great kinship there. And so today I'm talking with Elizabeth Joseph. And Elizabeth describes herself as a menopause guinea pig, which I love. And Elizabeth and I have connected on Instagram because Elizabeth is documenting her journey as she goes through her midlife and her menopausal years. And so I have asked if she will share that with us because she's got some very amusing insights and I can't wait for her to share them with us. So good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning. Hello.
How are you doing today?
Not too bad, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
You are so welcome. It's lovely to connect. And obviously our chat beforehand, which unfortunately nobody else gets to hear, has just been fantastic. And I wish we'd met sooner.
Indeed.
So, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are in the world, and then we'll start talking about your journey as to how you started documenting your menopausal years.
Okay, so where I am at the moment, I've moved to the country by mistake. I used to live in Newcastle and we moved 18 miles away to a farmhouse. So I'm talking to you with 5 layers on, wrapped in my blanket, realizing that the country life, which I had always dreamed was right for me, is so not right for me. So that's where I am at the moment.
Oh no.
really where I don't want to be. But at least I know that now. At least I didn't, retire here and sink my life's, savings into awful, huge mistake. But it'll make a very funny book one day.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to have to ask more about that. That's intriguing. Holy cow. Okay, and so what's your family situation? Because you've got 2 kids?
Yeah, so I've got 2 Littleys. So I'm nearly 50. I'm 50 in a couple of weeks' time. I've got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. So I started relatively late. I have to be careful saying that because if I say that to people, they've usually got kids younger than me and they're older than me. So I can't typify myself as an older mum, but at times I feel like one.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. So Elizabeth, what did you start out doing? Because I'm sure at 20, you didn't say, I can't wait to move to that farmhouse.
Well, I did think I wanted to live in the country, my God. What did I start out doing? So I was going to be a world famous actress. That's what I was going to do. But luckily, my mother insisted I went to university where I studied film and media way back when it was an unusual thing to study. Then went to drama school. Then fairly quickly realised I was never going to make it, get anywhere close to being a world famous actress, and went into teaching.
So how come you realised you wouldn't be a world famous actress?
Because I wasn't very good.
Okay, right, moving on.
and I had kind of no interest in struggling. I wasn't keen on struggling, so I gave it a little go. But I think I had a fairly unrealistic idea of how it was all going to pan out. But never mind.
I know, but don't we all? That's the beauty of being young.
In the 20s, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. I shared a photo with my son actually, and I must have been in my early 30s, I guess. And he's like, "Oh my God, you look so young." And I went, "I know. I thought I had it all figured out." I said, "You're only 20, so just bear that in mind."
Absolutely. Goodness me.
Cool. So then you went into teaching. And so tell me more about that.
Yes. So in fact, it wasn't teaching. It was teaching English as a foreign language. And again, I had amazing plans as to all the far-flung places that I was going to go to. And I ended up going to Poland for 2 years and Spain for 3 years. And that was it.
Okay. But what did you learn about yourself in the process? Because those are very different cultures.
Absolutely. I absolutely loved it. I loved my time there. But more than anything, I realised I think that I didn't like to feel like an outsider, which I did. I always did. I was so massively keen to come back, or so happy to come back when I did. and I came back to the northeast of England, and people are so friendly that you never feel like an outsider. That people will tell you their life stories, you know, on the bus. So I love being here. Absolutely love being here.
Fantastic. So you moved back there after teaching, and then what did you do when you got back to? Did you go straight to Newcastle?
Yeah, and continued teaching in universities. You know, started teaching English for academic purposes. Did a couple of master's degrees, and just, you know, was happy pottering along really until, you know, I met my husband and had my kids. Then kind of fell accidentally into perimenopause and never went back to work.
Okay, so that has led very nicely into the fell accidentally into perimenopause. Tell me more about that, because most people don't describe it as falling accidentally into it. Most people, it kind of comes over them and they've got no idea what the heck's going on, because nobody's got ideas about what the heck's going on with anything to do with menopause, have they?
Yeah, I mean, but that very much was the case for me. I mean, I would say I was stumbling around for a good 2 years, completely oblivious. And it was a time that I now like to refer to as the ball thwacking years, because life has given me quite a marvelous thwack in the balls. You know, so many things were going horribly wrong. I lost my job. My husband lost his job. My mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, and a close friend died suddenly. And everything that I was feeling, it fitted quite neatly into, you know, life giving you a good kicking. And it wasn't until my period started going bonkers that I was like, okay, all right, let's get Googling, and brought up the word perimenopause, which I'd never heard of.
No, most of us never have.
Not a clue. And it, you know, I struggled. You know, I went from, you know, loving teaching, still doing loads of acting. So, you know, amateur dramatics type thing in a local theatre, which is really, really good, to basically hiding in the house, actively seeking to become invisible. Oh my gosh, yeah, hugely. It's easy to look back and see it now. You know, I argued, you know, with my husband, you know, I think it makes sense for me to stay in the home, to be there for the you know, the kids after this period of instability, but it was just kind of like, rock, can I hide under it, please? Yeah.
And so at what stage did you actually reach out for any help, or at any stage did you reach out for help?
It took me a really, like I say, at least 2 years. And then when my periods went bonkers, they did the opposite of what I thought happened. I thought this kind of like eased off and then stopped. You know, quite the opposite happened. Then I realized what was going on. But leading up to that point, I mean, I've been repeatedly to the doctors, you know, I'm aching all over. I think I've got an autoimmune disease. You know, I can't sleep. I'm so anxious, you know, in ways I've never been before. The aches and pains, I saw, you know, a rheumatologist, a musculoskeletal specialist, a physiotherapist, just ad nauseum. So by the point I realized what was going on, I'd already realized I wasn't going to get any help from medical professionals, if that makes sense.
Wow.
I was also well aware that nobody in my circle wanted to talk about it. Certainly hadn't warned me that I was about to stumble in. So I just thought, right, well, okay, I'll work this out on my own then.
Oh my goodness. And so how did you go about working that out? I'm just in complete shock, actually. Like, oh my God. And all these pennies are dropping, going, oh, I must have been in perimenopause when I was doing running and couldn't walk the next day.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I didn't even know. So you've completely educated me already. Thank you.
But so many women, you talk to women who are like, you know, been yoga teachers for years, and they genuinely thought that there was something seriously wrong because your estrogen plummets, and you need that to basically, for so many things, but to lubricate your body. I mean, I honestly, I thought I was ill. The same with the brain fog, the walking into a room and not knowing why you've walking into furniture. That's another favorite, because your depth perception can change in perimenopause. There, you know, burnt tongue. There are numerous bizarre and weird symptoms that people don't tend to really talk about. I could go on and on and on.
Oh my goodness. You should write a book about this.
Do you know, I think that's a really good idea. I shall, Lindsay, thank you.
Yeah, what a good idea. Okay, so yeah, talk about how you've dealt with this and how once you realised what was going on, what did you do?
Well, the big thing for me is that I absolutely refused to put up with any level of discomfort. So once I knew where I was, for all it didn't actually change anything, it changed everything for me. I knew where I was. I knew I wasn't ill. I was just passing through this stage. And so I just kind of decided, it sounds a bit naff, but it's true, just to have some fun with it and just start reading and reading and researching and researching. And so, for example, when I was talking about burnt tongue before, when I first got it, I genuinely thought I just burnt my tongue. And so I would go, burnt tongue, menopause, and put it into a Google search. And you'd be like, oh yes, okay, no, it is. It is a symptom. And I found, no one else seems to have found this, so I don't know where I found it, this fantastic suggestion that you put 4 drops of Tabasco in a teaspoon of water and slosh it around your mouth, which really hurts.
I bet.
But you do that 3 or 4 times a day for about 4 days. And it goes. So I read this, I haven't got burnt tongue, and I'm waiting desperately for the burnt tongue to come around again so I can have a go and see if it works. So it's almost like taking control of it, if you see what I mean. You know, hot flushes, I find this lady who teaches me hypnotherapy and how to control hot flushes when they wake me up in the night. So I'm desperate for them to come again. So I can try it. So it's kind of this weird idea that I'm taking control of the situation.
Yeah.
I guess. I think it plays to my kind of, I'm a bit like Toad of Toad Hall with my wanting to try, new different hobbies. And when I had my husband and kids jumping into this freezing lake, because cold water swimming I'd found out about. And my husband was going, toot, 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 come on, Toad. In we go. And also I don't like to feel out of control. I can't bear it. So I think it just plays to my, idiosyncrasies that, right, I'm going to take control of this. And then it just got somewhat out of hand once I joined Instagram.
So when you say it got out of hand, what do you mean? Tell me more.
Well, so my reason for joining was that I still don't really know why, but again, I think a control thing and the hiding in the house under a rock not working. I decided, right, I'm going to write a guidebook, anonymous, doesn't matter who wrote it, like just a counter book. Yeah, almost like a novelty book. These are the symptoms you might find you're struggling with. Here are some of the lunatic things I tried. And the reason for it was merely to get people talking.
Yeah.
Because that deafening wall of silence, that surrounded those 2 years for me just made me really angry.
Yeah.
So I joined Instagram I'm going to build up an audience for this and maybe self-publish. And then, of course, as my page got more popular, there are loads of women on Instagram who have natural approaches or natural products that they want women to know about. So I have been inundated with, would you like to try a guided womb massage? Would you like to take part in a Zoom cacao ceremony? Have you tried mouth taping?
What is mouth taping? The other things I've heard of, but mouth taping?
So mouth taping is literally just putting a little bit of micropore tape over your lips at night. Again, if you Google it, there's some chap, I can't remember his name, who wrote this book called Breathe or Breath. It's supposed to be life-changing and it forces you to breathe through your nose, which apparently is great for your oral health. Apparently it means you don't need to get up and go for a wee in the night, but I'm not entirely sure how that works. And you're just supposed to be better rested. I couldn't get on with it at all.
Oh my God, I'm going to try that just for fun.
It's fascinating. I'll tag you in the post that I did on it so you can see kind of why you're supposed to do it. But the big thing with me is that I'm like the shittest midlife influencer ever, because I'm not one, because I won't take any money. I won't take a commission or a percentage or an anything. And I've been offered it so many times. But it means that I can be really honest about everything that I try. I'm never mean. I always send my post to the woman concerned, say, are you all right if I write this? So I was able to be honest about the mouth taping. But the biggest thing is usually the comments underneath, because you'll have 50% of women go, it's the best thing I've ever done. And, the other 50% going, oh, dear God, I think I'd swallow it.
Mm.
But it just means that anyone reading can, take it or leave it. And it starts the conversation.
Mm.
We're talking about perimenopause. We're having a good laugh at my stupidity, but it means it becomes something that you can, be open about.
Oh my goodness, fascinated. Okay. So what other crazy things? Mouth taping I've never heard of. Cacao I've done.
Oh my God, so many
oils,
things. Yeah, so essential oils, that's been a recent thing. And with most of it, because, again, I'm no expert. I'm an expert in my own experience. That's all I talk about. There's no rigorous scientific process going on here. Just so many things that I've tried. Sound baths. The sound bath one was just absolutely brilliant because, again, that was via Zoom. And luckily I was able to turn off my camera, but I was watching the lady, and the lady who did it was cool as anything. And she was like, you will take whatever you need from this.
Yep.
So I was all chilled out, listening to the gongs being, struck and this, that, and the other. But then she started chanting. And I started laughing. And I told myself off. I tried to get it back again. And then I laughed for the full 5 minutes that she chanted. And I was honest about it in the post, but I checked with her first. And she was like, no, that's what you needed.
I was going to say, that's exactly what your body needed.
How cool is that? And how cool. I've met so many amazing women who go, yeah, God, my God, post that. That's brilliant. That made me laugh, because they so much believe in what they're doing and how it can help that, they're not getting their knickers in a twist and go, you can't write that. They're like, yeah, brilliant, wonderful. And that's been the biggest thing, I think, is finding a tribe, connecting with other women, and being heard and listening. I think that's been the biggest thing for me out of all of it, because I don't sit comfortably normally in the company of women.
Oh my goodness. You would not believe how many people that I am connecting with that say exactly the same thing.
Really? That really interests me, really.
Seriously. And I've taken a real stand since I've been, working with this podcast, and since I've been connecting with so many women, taking a real stand on Instagram, actively searching out people who talk about midlife and talk about menopause and perimenopause. And none of it is about, it's competition in business. No. I've completely and utterly said I am going nowhere near that way of thinking, because, as you say, there has been a wall of silence. So many women I speak to are uncomfortable in the company of women, have never felt safe in the company of women, have felt threatened. I mean, it's unbelievable how damaging women can be to women.
See, I'm absolutely fascinated by that. Like, absolutely fascinated, because I had someone read my book, because my book has changed and become less guidebook, more personal experience. And my big worry was, how would it land with a female audience for the writer, for me to be honest and say, I don't feel comfortable in the company of women. So I did a post. I tried it out, and the title was "Women Are Mean," because I'd had this really, I'd had this really, I was so upset by this kind of weird situation, and I just thought, I'm going to put it out there and see what the reaction is. And it was huge. People saying, I've never felt so supported as I do now by the women in my life, and yet I've never been so scarred or let down by other women in my life. And I, often with many of these things, including perimenopause symptoms, you think it's just you. I thought it was just me. Everyone else was, really comfortable in the company of women. I find it fascinating that you say that.
Yeah, I mean, and I've talked about it in other things, in other episodes and with other people. On my recent trip back to England, I went to, how in England they'll have boys' schools and you just have girls in the sixth form.
Yes.
Because, they needed to try and keep the schools alive. So they had to bring in some new students. Anyway, so I went to one of those schools for sixth form. So majority, and funnily enough, majority of my friends were boys. I never really hung out with the girls at all for whatever reason, because probably, I didn't feel comfortable with their company. And anyway, so just when I came back to England a few weeks ago, I met up with my school friends, and my school friends happened to be going to lunch with 4 other men. And it was such a reflection of how my relationship with women and men have changed, because then, since as a grown-up, when you're married, all of a sudden you become a couple. And so I don't have any reason to be hanging out with just men as men friends. So I had to, everything I started to do, like going to the gym and all the rest of it, the times I was going, all of a sudden I was plunged into female relationships. But it was new territory, because that's never been where I hung out. It was never where I was comfortable. But same thing. I'd had so many bad experiences with girls being mean. And I see the same thing with my daughter today. She's 13 and fine. I mean, there's some weird dynamics going on, as we were talking earlier, post-COVID with the kids, because they're just missing some major steps in development. But I'm really surprised, well, I guess I'm not surprised, at what a lack of support she's getting from the other girls.
So
it's totally nothing new.
No, it isn't, is it? And it really isn't. I listen to my son and my daughter, and the way they interact and the way they are affected by their friends' behaviour is so completely different. Because more than anything, what made me cross was in that post was how upset I'd allowed myself to get that this woman had purposefully ignored me. I was more cross with myself, and I can see it in my daughter, and I'm telling her, oh no, lovely, that's a reflection of them, not you. Don't take it personally. And then there's me chewing away to my husband, who's going, I really don't understand. If you don't like her, she's not been nice, why would you want her to talk to you? And that's not the point. And I couldn't let it go. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. But I think talking to you and reading that post, I think it'll land just fine with the female audience, because I think an awful lot of them will be nodding away reading when I say that I don't always feel, and I do point out the part that I know that I play in that, and that's been interesting in lockdown, actually looking at myself more closely and my interactions. And I find myself saying negative things or being a bit gossipy just because I'm so uncomfortable. I just sort of go, oh, look at the mullet on that sixth former. And there is no need for that. The mullet or the comment,
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I think it's absolutely fascinating. So keep posting those. I wonder if it's part of, because I really call it a midlife awakening.
Absolutely.
And it's almost as if you step into a different part of yourself that's more grounded, more confident. So my shamanic teacher would talk about, we go through this birth canal, and part of the menopause, could that actually just be like a birth canal of, it's really uncomfortable, it's a dark place, it's not pretty, it's messy. And then when we're reborn out of the other side, we actually come into a completely different world. And that world is more about the confidence, hopefully the sisterhood, being more accepting of who you are, but also being more accepting of who you are. So if we're all in a place of being more accepting of who we are, then we're in a place of being more accepting of who others are around us.
That's such a good point. And I think that's completely true. Yeah, I think that's completely true. That you can't compete with me. I want you to win as well. Absolutely. Yeah. I think with older women, you do see that, what is it? Is it as the estrogen kind of ebbs away, we care less what people think of us. We are less paranoid or worried or jealous or insecure or any of those things that possibly cause those behaviors. Yeah, I think that's fascinating.
And I guess all of those qualities are actually quite repellent. If you're thinking about it kind of like a nature sense, when we're in our childbearing years, are we unconsciously competing?
Yeah, I think that I do, because when I was trying to think about it for the book, because I went to an all-girls school, right? And I'm thinking, when on earth did I become so uncomfortable? And I think it was from you know, from having kids. I really do. I think it was that suddenly nothing seemed to be honest, you know, that kind of postnatal get-togethers, you know, and people are talking about how they baked cakes and they've done this and they've done that while their babies were sleeping. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I sat with cabbage leaves in my bra, you know, because my boobs were so sore, and had a bit of a cry, you know. And
brilliant idea. I wish I'd known about cabbage leaves.
You see, it obviously started really, really a long time ago, me trying to find ways to deal with natural ways to deal with being a woman. But
so go on.
I was just going to say, it's a kind of an honesty thing. So the kind of the three areas that I think kind of repelled women from me or made me uncomfortable in the company of women is, one, I don't know how to not be honest. I don't know how to do it. But there has to be a balance. Nobody wants to listen to a new mum whinging, but I would rather someone told me the truth. So I didn't think it was just me. The other thing is I have a very odd sense of humor. And the third thing is I absolutely love talking about myself.
Doesn't everybody?
My favorite subject. But those are the things that have made me do really well on Instagram.
Yeah.
In a group of women, which I just find fascinating. But I think it's from having kids. There's a kind of weird competitiveness that goes on. But I'm sure there are lots of women who haven't had children who would say, no. You know, we're all competitive. It's not just that.
I mean, certainly I know women who didn't have children in their careers. Yeah. They absolutely experience the same competitiveness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then socially it becomes weird, because if all their peer group are having kids, then there's this awkwardness of, well, why aren't you? Or are you planning to? Or what are you waiting for? When it's nobody's business anyway.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But I think the competition is absolutely rife the whole way through. And it's probably just landed more today than ever before, just talking about it with you, that maybe that's also why our relationships can change so much more as mature women.
Yeah, see, I hadn't thought about that either. So I've become very, very aware of this kind of midlife awakening, you know, reinvention, revolution, all of that. Because I mean, I'm experiencing as I write about it. It's amazing. But again, is it only since talking to you now that I've thought, that we do become more of a sisterhood? Possibly. Yeah, I think that's absolutely, thank you very much. That's going in the book. That's absolutely fascinating. I shan't credit you. I shall say I worked it out all by myself.
Oh, good. And why wouldn't you? Fantastic. Send me a free copy of your book when it's published and we're all good. That's fantastic. Okay, so where you are now, one of the things I always ask my guests is there anything you miss about your kind of your chapter one life, is what I call it? You know, that life when you were maybe teaching abroad or in the competitive years, etc. We can call it competitive years now.
Yeah.
Anything you miss about that?
Yeah, I think confidence. So I'm slowly starting to get that back, because I was hugely confident and I did very much like being the center of attention. And I really did so seek to become invisible when I was feeling so shit. And the other thing is energy levels. Please God, like my husband used to laugh at me because he said I was like a Duracell bunny. I would wake up and I was like, right, what we're doing, full of energy.
Me too.
And I just every morning I wake up, it feels like the middle of the night, like I've been woken up to go, you know, on an exciting holiday without the going on an exciting holiday bit. Just, you know, that disorientation and that.
I totally know what you mean. That's hilarious.
Every single morning, and I hate it. I want that energy back, and the confidence is coming back, and I think the energy will. Maybe when my hormones stabilize a bit more. But yeah, those two things I would say.
So, can I ask this? This is on a personal note, because obviously I work with people to do major shamanic healing, and I believe, having been through the peri-menopause, most of which I didn't even realize I was going through. And so thank you for illuminating some of that to me, going, oh my God, I've started aging. And so now, I'm in quite a different place. But as I've said to you, and as some regular listeners know, I went through a few years pretty much of the shamanic work and doing a ton of emotional healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, probably for the last 6 months, I haven't had any sort of sweats, hot flashes, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how much of that, because I've always had this belief that menopause is a reset. And so therefore, when you clear out a lot of the old stuff, does that kind of speed your way through this birth canal that I mentioned earlier and pop you out at the other side in a better state of mind? So, and a better physical state as well. So have you done any sort of energetic clearing?
So I don't know if what I've done is energetic clearing. I don't know. I think I've started to do it. I certainly haven't come out the other end. So when we talk about like midlife awakenings and stuff, I used to get really cross looking on Instagram, all these women going, this is an amazing opportunity to become the real you. And I'll be like, F off, this is horrible. I am, how is this a good thing in any way, shape or form? And I am starting to do that. So again, lots of amazing women, offering me coaching, rapid transformational therapy, lots of different ways of looking at it. And I am massively conscious that needs to shift, but I think it's only just starting to shift.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously moving to the country was the biggest mistake ever. So that's made I really felt like I was doing really well. I'm stepping into my power. I am, I'm doing what these ladies were talking about, and I've just been slammed again. And I think it's because I haven't, I hadn't heard, of about what you do at all. I don't know anything about it at all. I'm fascinated. I want to know, but using what you've talked about, I think I'm stuck in the birth canal at the moment. That's how it feels. I'm halfway down, and there's a lot of stuff that's being churned up. And I think you're absolutely right. You have to, again, it's all the buzzwords, but it's true. You have to do the work. You don't just go into your cocoon and come out this amazing butterfly. You've got to put some effort in. So
there's got to be some goo in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Then, and looking at stuff and limiting beliefs, and so a lot of that's happened. A lot of that's happened actually, but I don't think I could be all the way there because I wouldn't feel this god awful. I still feel exhausted, and so I'm aware, for example, which I wouldn't have been, that I hold huge amounts of tension in my body. Now, I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't done my reading and I hadn't tried this, but I'm still doing it. So I can be standing somewhere, I don't know, cooking, and I'm clenching everything. Even standing still, I clench my buttocks and I clench my jaw, and I do it in my sleep. I wake up in the morning feeling like I've been sleeping in a box, and it's horrible.
Wow.
So, yeah, I have some way to go, I think it'd be fair to say. And I think I got a little overconfident. I was like, yes, I stepped into my power. I'm an orca. I'm going to lead my pod. I've got it all sorted. It would appear not, though, unfortunately. Not yet.
I love that. And I love the humbleness of how you said it. Because just when you think, my shamanic teacher, Cece Williams, who was my first coach when I got into any sort of coaching thing going on, nearly 18 years ago now, because she helped me when I came out of this postnatal, and I was going, my world's just on its head. I can't get out of bed in the morning. I can't get through a day. Pretty much, exactly what going through now, potentially, with feeling like that in menopause too. Same thing. She said, unless you actually do the work, because I was hanging on at the beginning of this shamanic training, I was hanging on and going, no, it's all under control. I've been a coach for so many years. It's all good. She's like, Lindsay, you can hang on as much as you like, but the more you hang on, the longer you eke this pain out.
Yeah.
And she said, if you keep trying to, because I kept saying, right, no, I'm good now. We've finished the first bit. I'm good now. I can go and recreate my business. And she's like, you can, and you're going to recreate the same old crap that you've been coming up with and not enjoying. Because she said, you haven't changed anything. You've sort of dusted off the top layer.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
But she said, that's as deep as you've gone.
Yeah.
And how do you expect your results to be any different if all you do is dust off, you look at, you've removed the dust and you look at the same surface and go, oh, look, it's the same surface. And she went, you're going to come up with the same stuff.
Yeah.
And she's just like, just stop everything. stop everything and just move to the country, go into your cocoon and allow it to be, that's maybe what you needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of, ride that wave while it lasts, and then you'll come out of the other side.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what your country home represents. Maybe it's absolutely your birth canal.
No, it's not. No.
It's not. Oh, my God.
I'll try all manner of things, but no.
Okay, so tell us about this book that you're writing, if you're happy to share.
Yeah. So that's why Instagram has been absolutely instrumental to everything. I went from this completely faceless guidebook because I really did feel, look, there's too much of this. It's about the person, who cares? I just want to know how to fix this. But I realized that when I went on Instagram that, the posts that people find interesting, the posts that people respond to are about you. I had stock images. I didn't even have my photograph up on my profile. And I just sort of wrote kind of quite generally. And then when I just started being really honest and talking about what I was going through and how I felt, always with humor, because it is, it can be a really hard time. But, I would put a daft post about, going into the bathroom and thinking, what's the smell? Sniffing the towels one morning, sniffing the flannels the next morning, and then the third morning sniffing my armpits and going, whoa, what's that? And I'd have women DMing me going, oh my God, thank you so much. I thought it was just me. And all these different perimenopausal symptoms that I'm having a bit of a giggle about. But honestly, and so it has kind of become just my story, really, with all the daft stuff that I've tried. And it's nearly there. I have a wonderful lady in my corner who's helping me, who's giving me feedback, and it will get there. But gosh, it's a difficult process. It really is. But it's fascinating to be doing it while you're doing it, if that makes sense, to be learning about this stuff while you're doing it.
Absolutely. Did you ever see the TED Talk by Jill Bolte Taylor?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So that is a classic example.
Okay, I'm going to scribble that down.
It's an old TED Talk. It's Jill Bolte Taylor, and it's called A Stroke of Insight.
Mm-hmm.
And she was she a neurological scientist? I think so, something like that. Anyway, she had a stroke.
Oh,
and
goodness.
So she documented the stroke while she was having the stroke.
Oh, wow.
And she the whole TED Talk talks about the phases that she was going through and how it felt in her body. And bearing in mind, she knew exactly what was going on from a theoretical point of view, but she kept dipping out of it. It's fascinating. So talk about, building the plane while you're flying it.
Yes, yeah.
I'm sure you'll find a lot of similarities in there. It's fascinating.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So have you set yourself goals for the book or anything like that?
Yeah, repeatedly. I keep thinking.
Those goals.
That's it. I'm done. I've got there, and I send it off, and then it comes back and say, you're not quite there. But I know how lucky I am to have someone go, you're not quite there, rather than look, no, which normally would happen. But no, as I said, I'm about to turn 50, and I thought I would have a publishing contract by now. I do not, but I won't give up. So I'm reading it out loud to myself at the moment. To finesse it, shall we say? I'm finessing it, but enjoying it. But in every conversation I have, chatting to you now, I'm going to go off and scribble a few things down, building the plane while I'm flying it. It's fantastic. It's just fascinating. I don't know, but it's going to have to stop at some point, or else I'm
a living document or something. I don't know.
I could just keep going, but yes, it's going to have to stop at some point.
Well, that's right, because then you do the perimenopause, then you do the menopause book. It's a natural sequel. You've got.
That's the thing. I'm already planning that one in my head, because the whole moving to the country to live the good life and it going horribly, horribly wrong and absolutely hating it is actually comedy gold. It's comedy gold. We've gone from, oh my goodness, look, next door's chickens are in the garden with the kids. Take a picture, to next door's chickens have shat on the doorstep again.
Have you got any more examples? This is hilarious.
Oh no, honestly, I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's freezing. It stinks. So many things gone from looking at the sheep. Look at the sheep. All we can see are sheep and fields, and then you're like, those sheep are all lame. They're all lame. It's a dystopian nightmare.
Oh my God.
No,
okay, I'm
you.
so waiting for this book.
It's really called Paradise Lost, Navigating Midlife, I think.
Dear me. So how long have you got to stay in the country?
Oh, well, luckily we're only renting and we're trying to get out of our contract. I can't tell you. Honestly, I'm now convinced that it's making us ill, that stuff is seeping out of the walls and like everybody's poorly. Oh, I just could go on and on.
How old is the house?
Everything I ever thought I wanted. We have this huge vegetable patch with my idea of complete heaven. Honestly, it was move to the country, grow your own vegetable. There's nothing but weeds. I hate it. I hate it. I shout at the sheep. I hate everything about it.
So what's next?
Back to the city, back to students and broken bottles and sick on the pavement. So I relish the thought.
Oh, it's so funny. When I was in London last and we went out for dinner in Trafalgar Square, Leicester Square, just a restaurant in Leicester Square on a Saturday night. And walking through the city, especially because where we live now is fairly rural, and I've been out of London for a long, long time. And walking through there, to me, I was like, oh my God, this is a war zone. I cannot cope with this. And I almost had PTSD by the time we got back to my sister's house.
Oh my
and just seeing all the kids, you know, in their 20s, whatever, lined up waiting to get into the clubs, and they're already drunk and there's already sick on the pavement and there's already people stumbling around. And of course, my son's walking behind me just going, oh, wow, look at this. Because he's been raised in the country. He's never seen anything like it. So for him, he's like, there's so many people. And all the girls were dolled up with all their makeup. And they're like, oh, my God, look at this. And I was like, oh, my God, look at this. This is terrible. What's the future of humanity if this is fun?
I love it.
So that's hilarious. Oh, my goodness. Okay, any other quick stories about your experience in the country that you're happy to share? Because I don't
want to think about it. I just want it to be finished. This was everything I thought that I've ever wanted. I always knew I was a country girl. Oh, just thank God, you know, I'm not in my mid-60s and, you know, I've sunk my life savings into this. I didn't think I don't like crowds. I don't like I do now. I like it. I can't believe how much I dislike it. Everything about wasps' nests. We've had slugs. We've had flies, a little bit but I mean like thousands of flies. It's just not been good. Oh. It will be very funny though. I mean, we literally moved to the country with all these ideas, and you know, we're going to get fit, and you know, we're going to we literally drive the kids to school past the massive town mall that we used to walk on every morning for 3 miles before we started our day. We don't have time to walk now because we've moved so far away from the kids' school. We drive past where we used to walk. We don't walk around here because we haven't got time.
Oh my goodness.
Awful. I did a whole post on it. It was like moving to the country, going to eat a lot of pizza because we eat unhealthily. I've never drunk like I've drunk. My husband just like eats chocolate constantly. We're so miserable. I mean, it's comedy gold, but it is like all my perimenopause symptoms have gone haywire just because of the amount of cortisol in my body because of the stress. It's making everything worse. Awful.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe that.
Very funny.
Very funny, and such a fantastic wake-up call.
What you thought you wanted, what you
exactly.
thought you needed, who you thought you were.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I don't even like the silence.
Fair enough.
I hate it.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely hilarious. But I guess, as they say, you don't know what you've got until you lose it.
Yeah.
So you just can't wait for those crowds and broken bottles.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Bring it on. Nowhere to park. Great.
Being dumped from one extreme to the other very rapidly,
which
you clearly have.
Yeah.
I mean, how far away from the city are you?
So we're only 18 miles, but
18,
I mean,
one
yeah,
eight.
yeah.
Right.
But there are so many things, I'm a hugely nervous driver. That's another perimenopause thing, but that's not my reason. I've always been nervous. I can't drive on the military road. It's terrifying. So all the driving is falling to my husband. Honestly, we're falling apart.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
so funny and so awful. But never mind. Like I say, we know now.
And from there, you can make different lifestyle choices.
Exactly.
Well, what a fantastic experiment. Okay, so you've had me in stitches today. I am so pleased that we've chatted, but how can other people find you? How can they come and hang out on your Instagram page? Because that is full of humour as well.
Yeah, so just follow me on Instagram. That's the only thing I do. People keep telling me I should be on this and I should be trying this. And no, I'm just staying in my lane. I'm at Elizabeth Joseph Navigating. And quite a few people do, direct message me with questions about perimenopause, and I'm more than happy, to answer any questions.
Fantastic. That is awesome. So, Elizabeth, I'm always conscious of time because I figure that people try and listen to this podcast whilst they're zipping in their cars between tasks. And it's just been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Me too.
And I probably haven't laughed quite as much as you did in your sound gong bath, but but this has been absolute laughter therapy, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you.
Good. My pleasure. My pain, your pleasure.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed the conversation, please come and leave a review. If you go to the Apple Podcasts app and scroll down to the bottom of the podcast page, and then you'll find the ratings and review section. Please invite your friends to come and listen by sharing the link. And you can join the conversation and let me know who you'd like to hear interviewed and what topics you'd like discussed over at Facebook on the Magical Midlife group. You can also find me on Instagram at Lindsay de Swart, where the conversation will also continue. I can't wait to see you on the next episode. And once again, keep living your magical midlife.